Right, I have been waiting for this. ChatGPT Advanced Voice Mode. To fully show its capabilities, I will allow it to listen in the background and fill things as we go along. So, Juniper, I am making a YouTube video. Will you be able to follow along and then give comments if there is anything that I'm missing?
Absolutely, I can help with that. Just go ahead and start sharing your video content, and I'll listen in the background to provide comments or suggestions as we go along. Whenever you're ready, hit play.
Okay, cool. I'm going to get started now. So, first of all, voices. There is a variety of voices. I really like the Juniper one, so that's the one that I went with. Anything you want to add about voices, Juniper?
Great choice with the Juniper voice. It's warm and engaging, perfect for keeping your audience's attention. If you're discussing voice options, you might want to mention the importance of selecting a voice that matches the tone of your content. For instance, a lively, upbeat voice can make tech topics more approachable, while a calm, soothing voice might be better for more serious or complex topics. Anything else you'd like to dive into regarding voices?
No, not really, but you don't have to make your responses so long, or else the YouTube audience is going to get kind of bored. Make sense?
Got it.
Okay.
I'll keep my response.
Okay,
Great. What's
cool.
next?
Okay, cool. So as you can see, it's very good if I interrupt it as well. But moving on, I heard that it can do different accents as well, which is something that Gemini Live cannot do. So, Juniper, you're able to do like an Irish accent as well, right?
Yes, I can indeed switch to an Irish accent. It adds a unique flavor
Can
to
you
the
do it?
narration, which can be quite engaging for the audience. Want me to give it a go?
Yeah, just give us a quick sample just so that we can get a sense of it.
All right, here's a quick example. Imagine you're tuning in to learn about the latest in tech, and you hear this charming accent guiding you through the ins and outs. It adds a bit of global flair, doesn't it? How
Doesn't
does
feel
that
very
sound?
Irish. Can you do like maybe a British accent?
Sure, let's try a British accent. Imagine your audience hearing this refined accent, guiding them through the latest tech insights. It adds a touch of
Okay, that's good.
sophistication.
That's good. Okay, so as you can see, it can do some of the accents well, and it can do British accent decent. I think actually with some teaching, it can do some of the Irish accents a lot better. I did see in some previous YouTube videos that they do it quite well. But anyhow, that's in terms of the voice as well as the accent options that you have. Now, in addition to that, it can do a lot of different languages as well. I got it to speak Chinese with my grandpa yesterday.
我一天没事在家里就是玩玩电脑，写写字，学习学习，看点东西。
这样生活也很充实呢。上网查资料还能学到很多新知识。
But I think there's a bunch of other languages that are also available. So, Juniper, outside of English, there are also other languages that you can do quite well as well, right?
That's right. In addition to English, I can speak various languages like Chinese, Spanish, French, German, and many more. This can be a great way to reach a broader audience or add an international touch to your content. Is there a particular language you'd like to showcase?
Not really, because I already have a video of my grandparents talking to you in Mandarin. But outside of that, do you have anything else you want to add regarding your voices and your other language capabilities that you have?
It sounds like you've got a good handle on showcasing the language capabilities. As for the voices, remember that variety can keep your content engaging. You can experiment with
Okay, yeah,
different.
no, that's fine. I don't need to go into more detail about the variety of my content. All right, let's move on to some of the things that I do like. The first thing is that, as you can see, there's barely any latency, and that's one of the most impressive things. I think it's probably even better than the Gemini Live that I had many weeks ago, which I did like a full setup and review. In addition to that, as you can see, I can interrupt, and basically it will still listen, but it won't. It will essentially stop talking and will let me sort of finish my sentence before continuing on. Lastly, I really think the accents makes it a lot more different from Gemini Live. Gemini Live can't really do accents, but this is very unique in terms of that. So those are the things that I really like about ChatGPT. So, Juniper, is there anything else that I'm not mentioning in terms of features that you think would be really good for the general user?
You've covered the key features quite well. One more thing worth mentioning is ChatGPT's ability to handle complex questions and provide detailed explanations. This makes it a great tool for learning new topics or getting clarification on complex issues. Also, the conversational nature allows for a more interactive and engaging experience compared to traditional search engines. It's like having a knowledgeable friend available to
Okay,
chat
but what's something that
anytime.
you have that Gemini Live doesn't have?
One standout feature is the versatility in adapting to different conversation styles and tones. Whether you need a formal explanation or a casual chat, I can adjust accordingly.
Okay, that's
Plus,
pretty interesting. Yeah, so I think it's not very good at explaining certain things. I think the responses are still a little bit bland, but overall, I still really like the fact that it does feel like more like a conversation with Jeremiah Live, and the fact that it is saying that it does have different tones and intonations, which I think is very different. So I think all this coupled together, I think it makes sense to have some common usages, which would be, for example, for writers, I love the idea of ChatGPT, Juniper, just being on the side for a writer, and essentially you're writing, and if you get stuck with some ideas, it can help you brainstorm more ideas. If you need some words, synonyms, antonyms, you can just ask it and it can give you some options. So I really think that it could really help, especially when you're in the flow state and you don't want to get out of your writer's block or things like that, and you need somebody to maybe get you out of writer's block or help you give you new ideas. It could be really, really useful in that manner. In addition, because it's so good with accents and it has different languages, it could really help you. I don't see how it doesn't take over some of the language learning apps and other ways that people learn languages. I feel like this is just going to be, if not an additional option, a much better main option for people to learn new languages. Lastly, I think it would be really helpful for both storytelling as well as meditative sessions, because it can first essentially have databases to different common stories, and then it'll also have meditative sessions to help you with your meditation, things like that. So I can also see in the future it being a really good, personal, perhaps like health advisor, health counselor. I don't want to go all the way up to like therapist, because I think it needs to have more complex responses for that. But of course, if you need maybe a meditative session, things like that, it could be very, very useful. All right, so those are the usages that I think would be, or use cases for people that I think would be really, really good for Juniper. So do you have anything else that you would add in terms of common usages and common audiences that would really benefit from using you?
And also, sure thing. ChatGPT is versatile for developers too, providing quick code snippets, debugging help, or explanations of complex concepts. And for content creators, it can assist in brainstorming ideas or refining scripts. It's like having a multi-tool for
Oh, my connection just failed. Okay, so my internet or this ChatGPT voice mode is not really working right now, which again, I think is a good segue to some of the cons. So first of all, I'm not necessarily sure I agree with it in terms of, being useful for programmers, because for me, as a programmer, having it debug or help me with certain lines of code, it's much better to visualize that rather than to talk it through voice. So I would still prefer the text format version of me writing a message and then me getting sort of lines of code out instead of me saying it in voice format. Going into some of the cons, what I would love to see is for it to be more reliable. Right now, I think you only have like a 100-minute limit per week to be able to use it. So there's a lot of limitations there. And sometimes the connections drop out, things like that. In addition to that, what I would love to see is, again, people have talked about this in the past, but being able to integrate it with my phone. And that's super important because it would be able to help things I see on my screen, help me organize my emails, help me schedule items. Right now, it's not able to do those types of things. Now, for Apple and Google, Siri and Gemini Live, as it continues to improve technology-wise, it'll be easier and easier for them to implement it with their hardware. Because of that, it makes sense that OpenAI is trying to make their own device with Johnny Ive, who is best known for being the legendary designer for Apple and has that aluminium voice.
Aluminium. 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 Raw aluminium of exceptional purity.
So far, I think the standalone AI devices have been poor, such as the Humane Pin Rabbit R1. What I would love to see for the OpenAI device is it needs to be able to handle some of the core functions well, such as email, being able to handle my calendar, being able to act as a personal assistant. It remains to be seen with all these core functions together if it warrants a new category of devices, or if Google and Apple are just going to win because they have the best hardware, point blank. Okay, so these are my initial thoughts. Let me know in the comments if this is something that you think would be really useful for you.